Rosalina left quite an impact on Mario fans after her debut in Super Mario Galaxy. She's the keeper of the Comet Observatory that's been floating through the cosmos, visiting the Mushroom Kingdom every 100 years. And sometimes she'll pop in from time to time to play sports with the others. In this video, we take to the stars to explore the origins of the Mother of Lumas, Rosalina. I'm the Mentalk and welcome to Origin Oracle. So go ahead, grab a snack, kick back, and let's head back in time. Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Wii would be the first time we'd see Rosalina, with Nintendo taking Mario's adventures into space. Even though we've seen Mario hopping around other celestial bodies before, the entire game was structured around the player exploring several different galaxies, hence the name. The story begins at the Centennial Star Festival that's popping off in the Mushroom Kingdom, as all the citizens gather together to witness a comet that passes by the planet every 100 years. Peach sends a letter to Mario inviting him to the castle on the night of the Star Festival, mentioning there's something she wants to give him, and you can tell by how Mario's running toward the castle that he misinterpreted what that something was. I forgot to mention that this game dropped in 2007, and as someone who picked this up on release day, I have to give quick props to this moment. This part where you control Mario passing through the Mushroom Kingdom while all the toads are hanging out in the festival was such a gorgeous opening. I was actually a little disappointed when the next cutscene started.
What could go wrong?
That cutscene features Bowser and his minions performing an all-out assault on the Mushroom Kingdom. They waste no time blowing things up here. He once again comes to kidnap Princess Peach and does this by just lifting her entire castle away from Earth. Can't say he hasn't tried this before though. Mario quickly attempts to pursue them, but gets blasted away by a Magic Koopa and is left to burn up in the Earth's atmosphere.
Damn!
But a mysterious star creature in Peach's possession races off to save him. This intro is a lot like Super Mario Odyssey's now that I'm looking at it again. Anyway, Mario awakens on a tiny planet and plays hide and seek with some bunnies before we meet the beautiful Rosalina for the first time. She tells Mario that she watches over and protects the cosmos and proceeds to help him on his quest to find his special one, aka Peach. The mysterious star creature, on the other hand, is called a Luma, who Rosalina asked to accompany Mario to give an in-game reason for his new spin ability. Mario is now on a mission to collect as many stars as he can so they can power up Rosalina's Comet Observatory to pursue Bowser and save Princess Peach. That's the gist of the story, and Rosalina mostly just hangs out at the observatory while Mario, Luigi, and the Toads are doing all the work. The observatory itself serves as the main hub and gateway to all the different galaxies Mario will explore, and it has various rooms built into it to show that it doubles as the home of Rosalina and the Lumas. Now, if we truly want to dive into the origins of Rosalina, Mario will have to head into the library periodically as he's collecting stars. Rosalina herself will read a story to Mario and the Lumas, which turns out to be the tale of how she ended up at the observatory and became the Mother of Lumas. But in this case, I'll be telling you the story today. So welcome everyone to Mentalk Storytime, name subject to change. The storybook opens with a young girl discovering an old spaceship with a distressed Luma inside of it. It's emphasized that this takes place a very, very long time ago, and while we're not certain how many years it's been since these events happened, it's safe to say Rosalina is a pretty old soul. Anyway, the girl in the story discovers that the Luma is waiting in the rusted spaceship for its mama, explaining that she's supposed to arrive on a comet. So the girl decides to wait alongside the Luma as they gaze into the stars for any sign of her. But this turns into years of waiting. The girl decides it would be a better idea to fix the spaceship and head into the cosmos to go find the Luma's mother instead. And so their adventure begins. So one day they spot a comet in the middle of space and manage to chase it down in hopes that the Luma's mother is on it. But it just turns out to be an empty ball of ice. So the girl and the Luma decide to stay on the comet as it speeds through space to continue their search. During their journey, the girl expresses that she deeply misses her mother, crying to the Luma because she'll never see her mother again, which seems to trigger the Luma as well because it starts crying for its mama too.
Come on now, dawg.
But in that moment, the girl comforts the Luma and vows to take care of it, one of her first motherly gestures. So the two decide to make their comet a little bit homier by building a bunch of rooms on the surface. And if you're wondering how, apparently below the ice of the comet, there is like a convenient set of tools and furniture, which makes me more curious on how those got there than anything else in this story, but I digress. Despite the new home, the girl is still homesick and expresses how much she misses her father, brother, and mother. Sometime after this, a planet appears on the horizon, which delivers more Lumas to the girl's doorstep looking for their mama. This puts the girl in great spirits, and without hesitation, she takes them all in as her children, moving them into the house that her and the original Luma built. More time passes, and with her telescope, the girl gazes longingly at the blue dot that was her home, reminiscing on the different things she used to do with her family. And she breaks down. This is the part of the story where it's revealed that the girl's mother died a long time ago and is buried under a tree on the hill close to her home. The Luma that's been with her this whole time steps up to console her and tells the girl that it will transform into a comet that will help her soar through the cosmos. It plummets into the surface of the comet and is reborn as a brand new one, setting course for the girl's home. It's revealed to the girl that the destiny of Lumas are to transform into celestial objects like stars, planets, and comets once they mature. So she vows to serve as the mother of Lumas until it's their time to shine. And in turn, she finds a new family among the stars. She also decides to return home once every 100 years just to take a moment to visit her original planet and nap in her favorite sleeping nook. I hope you all enjoyed Storytime with Mentalk. Name subject to change.
I like that.
So while this book doesn't explicitly say it's the story of Rosalina, this is definitely Rosalina. The story also doesn't directly mention that Rosalina is a princess, but you can see her castle in the distance that she calls home. Even though reading through this book was completely optional, a story like this wasn't exactly characteristic of mainline Mario titles up to this point. So was this story originally planned for Rosalina all along? The short answer is no, but I gotta talk about the development of Super Mario Galaxy for context first. The key individual behind Rosalina's creation and the inclusion of this story was Yoshiaki Koizumi, who was the director for Super Mario Galaxy. You may be familiar with him as one of the hosts for several Nintendo Directs, and he currently serves as a senior executive officer over at Nintendo. Yes, he's definitely climbed through the ranks since this game. Originally, he studied to become a film director, specializing at Osaka University of Arts in film, drama, animation, and storyboarding. Instead, he would end up at Nintendo in the early 90s and worked on the writing that you would find within instructions manuals, which at the time was where you would find most of the story for video games. Prior to Galaxy, he served alongside Miyamoto for several projects, with his first major role being an illustrator for The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past back in 1991. Eventually, Koizumi would become the director for Super Mario 128, a technical demo shown at the Space World event in August 2000 to demonstrate the processing power of the Nintendo GameCube. While this codename was originally used for a proposed Super Mario 64 sequel, the tech demo itself demonstrated up to 128 on-screen Marios walking on a circular board, which for the time was definitely a flex. Both Miyamoto and Koizumi were laser focused on the idea of implementing spherical worlds and rounded surfaces, since it had never been mastered in game development at the time. But Koizumi felt they needed more time to achieve this. Internally, the technology and expertise wasn't there yet. So Super Mario Sunshine was released instead for the GameCube in 2002, developed separately from the project that was Super Mario 128. Even after the release of Sunshine, Miyamoto and other Nintendo executives would be continuously questioned on the status of Super Mario 128. But even though there weren't Mario titles, 128's physics and other technical concepts were incorporated into other big titles like Metroid Prime, The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, and Pikmin. It wouldn't be until 2005 when Miyamoto finally revealed that the project would blossom as a full Mario title for their newest console, the Nintendo Revolution, which was later officially named the Nintendo Wii. With the new technological capabilities of the Wii, Super Mario Galaxy was inspired by some of the concepts within Super Mario 128, and also managed to have the spherical surfaces they were pining for implemented within it. Miyamoto stated that he wanted to go with the usual Princess Peach kidnapping plotline, but with Koizumi as the director, he wanted to include a little bit more. The game would end up having another set of characters, a princess from outer space, and her family of talking stars. This space princess would be called Rosetta in Japanese, which is named after a type of orbit in astronomy. But this name would be localized in most languages as Rosalina. I couldn't 100% track down why localization teams went with Rosalina as the name, but I can only surmise that they were trying to attribute it to a rose or maybe go with a similar plant theme as Princess Daisy and Peach. But you can also attribute a rose to beauty, and it sounds similar to Rosetta, so maybe they just went with that. If anyone has any information on that, let me know. Interestingly enough, in Italian, they went with the name Rosalinda, which can be associated with the Spanish phrase Rosa Linda, meaning beautiful rose. And speaking of Spanish, in that version, they call her Estella, which is the Spanish word for the tail of a comet, which is also pretty close to the word estrella, which is the Spanish word for star.
Alright, I get it!
So this is one of the early design concepts for Rosalina, with a completely different hairstyle and a dress that looked more like what we'd see Peach or Daisy wear. At some point, the final design would change most of this, but some of the similarities to Princess Peach were entirely intentional. The development team contemplated having her character be related to Princess Peach, but eventually dropped this idea in the final story. There are a few fan theories surrounding this, but I'll get to that topic later on in the video. Rosalina is also shown to be pretty damn tall. This is her in comparison to Peach and Daisy. Now that I think on it, let's see if we can get a Rosalina Lady D mod in Resident Evil 8.
Wow. Well, Ethan Winters.
In a 2007 interview with Wired, Koizumi would mention that he wanted to go against the grain with Rosalina's story, stating, "For a very long time, it really felt like telling a story in a Mario game was something that wasn't allowed. But I felt in this case that Lumas and Rosalina really needed a story to explain what they were doing out there to give the players a deeper understanding of their presence. So telling her story as a fairy tale by reading the book to all the Lumas as if they were young children at story time just seemed like the mood appropriate way to accomplish this." In another interview with Nintendo Power, Koizumi revealed that he worked on Rosalina's storybook all by himself in the middle of the night without anyone knowing. On top of that, story elements within games were something that Miyamoto wasn't usually too fond of. Despite all this, Koizumi would present the storybook to Miyamoto and express how important it was to him, and soon it would find its way into the game. I think this story of perseverance also ties well into Rosalina's character arc, and I'll round it off with one last quote from Koizumi. "In Mario games, there are constantly peaks and valleys of finding a challenge, not being able to get past it, and then getting better and eventually overcoming it. That was the cycle of events that happened in the storybook over and over again, as Rosalina had many disappointments that she eventually overcame with the help of the Lumas. Introducing a story like that, which sort of bolsters the player's feeling that there's hope, that it's possible to persevere, was a really good way to encapsulate all of this. I know at this point this sounds more like an origin video for Yoshiaki Koizumi than anything else, but his contributions to a lot of the games he worked on are absolutely incredible, even as far back as A Link to the Past. I'll include a link to the Wired article in the description if you want to learn more. Or maybe I'll cover it in a future Link video. Wink wink. Okay, that segment was so long that Mario already collected all the power stars and is about to defeat Bowser. Yes, at the end of the game, Mario and Bowser square off at the center of the universe, and as usual, Bowser is defeated. Though it looks like from the aftermath of their battle, a planet explodes and forms a massive black hole that begins to consume the entire universe. This ending gets pretty crazy. I remember my shock when it looked like they permanently killed off Bowser here. But in a moment of hope, all the Lumas at the observatory begin to sacrifice themselves into the black hole, including the Luma that traveled with Mario this whole time. This actually makes me sad. So their sacrifice reforms space and time, essentially resetting and recreating the universe. Rosalina has one last chat with Mario, while baby Lumas are wailing behind her, and simply tells him that life is a cycle. Baby Lumas eventually become stars, stars eventually die and become stardust, forming Lumas all over again to repeat the cycle. With the universe destroyed and recreated, everybody celebrates, and Bowser is brought back to life, and the game ends with Rosalina thanking Mario. Or maybe she's thanking the player because she's looking directly at the screen. And the game ends beautifully with her returning to the observatory to continue watching over us and the rest of the cosmos.
Super Luigi Galaxy!
Oh, hell yeah. So to date, Super Mario Galaxy remains as the game where Rosalina gets the most attention, but she's appeared in quite a few Mario titles since. But before I continue, I want to address some fan theories. As I've noticed with a lot of the comments I've been reading lately, there are a whole host of rumors and misinformation that has spawned from the Super Mario franchise. It's entertaining to read, to say the least, so I know that if I don't mention this fan theory, people are probably going to wonder why I didn't discuss it. So, there's a famous video from MatPat from the Game Theorist channel declaring that Rosalina is potentially somehow the daughter of Luigi and Peach. And while that video is well produced and does have some good points, there's nothing from Nintendo or the developers from Super Mario Galaxy themselves to support this. The devs did say they were thinking of making Rosalina a relative of Peach, and completely drop the idea, and I think the connection kind of stops there. And a disclaimer so I don't have to address it in the comments, just because I don't agree with MatPat on this doesn't mean I'm saying that you watching this should disagree as well. Nintendo could come out tomorrow and say this was their original idea for all I know. I'm simply presenting the facts that are out there, but by no means does that mean you can't enjoy fan theories. But if we do want to play with the idea that Rosalina is still some kind of relative to Peach, I would assume she's more of an ancestor if anything. In her storybook, it's mentioned that she has a brother, and maybe this brother continued the lineage of the Mushroom Kingdom. Anyway, I bring all of this up to say that I don't mind dabbling in fan theories from time to time, especially if there are developer notes or in-game lore to support them, but I'll mostly mention them in passing rather than doing deep dives. Though I love reading about them in the comments, so feel free to leave any interesting theories you may have as you watch these videos. In the summer of 2010, Super Mario Galaxy was released for the Nintendo Wii, which seems to be more of a reimagining of the first game. Compared to the original, this one is even lighter on plot, but begins very similarly with Mario and Peach coming together to enjoy cake during the Star Festival, or that's what Peach is calling it. Mario finds the same baby Luma from the first game on his way to Peach's castle, so for those who thought you'd never see him again, here he is. Bowser attacks the castle again and kidnaps Princess Peach, taking her to the center of the universe. So the Lumas aid Mario in pursuing Bowser, which takes him back into space and onto a planet-like ship, captained by a big Luma named Lubba. They transform it into a planet-sized Mario head and start exploring the galaxies again with it to collect enough stars to get to the center of the universe. Let's address the elephant in the room then. Why is Lubba here facilitating everything? Where's our hot elderly space princess?
You good, bro?
Rosalina is more or less absent throughout the entire game except the ending. Yeah, Mario collects enough stars to fight Bowser in the center of the universe and save Peach, and as Bowser's plans unravel, we see the Comet Observatory come into view. It looks like Bowser stole their stars again to set his plans in motion, but with him defeated, the family on the observatory is free once more. Rosalina tells the others that a pole that defies time and space would bring them all together again, which hints that the events of the game take place differently in a rewritten universe after the calamity at the end of the first game, potentially. Some people debate whether this is a sequel, retelling, or just another example of Nintendo not caring about plot and continuity. Either way, the baby Luma takes Mario's hat as a souvenir and everyone lives happily ever after. If you manage to collect 120 stars, we see Rosalina ending story time with the Lumas, implying that the events of the game are a story being retold by Rosalina. Honestly, I always just looked at Galaxy 2 as more levels, and considering how polished this format was, I wasn't going to complain when this came out. I highly recommend these two games if you can get your hands on them. Still waiting for that Switch port for Galaxy 2, Nintendo. After this game, Rosalina does make more appearances, but not as substantial as the two Galaxy games. She's an unlockable player character in Super Mario 3D World, but you're going to have to put in some work before you start playing as her. She can do the spin that Mario does in the Galaxy games, so that's a nice reference, but she isn't available to the player until after you defeat Bowser. Don't sleep on this title though, it definitely holds up. And I want to take a brief second to show off this concept art from Super Mario Odyssey here. I can only guess that they were planning on having Rosalina be some traveling guitarist at some point in that game, which I would have absolutely adored. Unfortunately, this is all that's left of that concept, her in a black t-shirt and some jeans, but I'm loving it anyway. Rosalina's latest appearance as of this video is in Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which is a great game, but I'm still wondering how this collaboration happened in the first place. This little series is kind of a beast of its own, containing its own world and lore that I'd say is mostly its own thing, with Mario elements and locations sprinkled throughout. Instead of playing as Rosalina in this game though, you play as a rabbit that idolizes her. Rosalina herself is kidnapped by the big baddie in this game. Disappointing, I know. But seeing as there's DLC on the way, maybe there's still hope that she too will be sniping enemies. Rosalina can also be found as a playable character in a bunch of Mario spin-offs and sports titles, the place where the other Mario characters go to die. I'm sorry guys. Mario Kart 8 and Dr. Mario World include playable baby versions of her though, so that's kinda interesting. But I'd argue her biggest appearance outside of the main Mario titles was Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U and 3DS. I can't say I ever expected this announcement, but her and the Lumas come to kick ass, and if you guys remember the competitive scene for Smash 4, she was the top of the ranks for a while.
Can I please recover?
You're definitely dead.
Their mechanics were similar to Ice Climbers in that you could control Rosalina and the Luma individually, and when set up right, the two could easily control the stage. You even get different color Lumas to control, including the black one.
What do you mean by
that serves as Mario's guide around the observatory in the very first Super Mario Galaxy game. I discovered his name was Polare, by the way. They never actually said his name in game, so it's one of those things you would have to read in the instructions manual. Rosalina and Luma return for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate because everybody's here, am I right? So everyone, that is the origin of the lost princess, Rosalina. I know I didn't cover every single thing, but look no further than the comments section. Is there any Mario fan out there that actually dislikes Rosalina? I'd like to know this, so let me know and stay tuned for the next Origin Oracle. As always everyone, be safe. The Prophet has spoken.